The Wangs vs. the World is the debut novel from Jade Chang, who I also got a chance to meet with at Book Riot Live. Now, unlike Ken Liu's Paper Menagerie, The Wangs vs. the World has been on my radar since its release, and I was only too happy to find an excuse to bump it up the TBR pile. In the book, we're introduced to Charles Wang, who immigrated to America and quickly built himself a massive cosmetic empire. He's had Martha Stewart over to his Bel Air estate, thinks nothing of spending $5,000 a plate at charity luncheons, or spending his weekends on a speedboat with a bevy of models. Charles Wang is a huge success and kind of a big deal, until it all comes crashing down during the financial crisis. And I mean crashing. This is no slow bleed, but a house of cards that collapses entirely. Charles is left with nothing. And so, in a borrowed Mercedes, his second wife in tow, he decides to travel across America, pick up his kids, and descend on his oldest daughter's farm in upstate New York, armed with nothing more than a vague plan. This is a fun road trip family drama. It bounces around inside each of the different characters' heads as they make their way across the United States, overcoming obstacles along the way. Andrew, the middle child, despite being barely funny, wants to be a stand-up comic. Grace, the youngest, is a petulant, death-obsessed style blogger, and Sena is a trust fund it girl, one-time muse, and disgraced art monster based out of New York. These kids are screwed up, messy, and entirely human, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, they are about the whitest, moneyed set of children you could ask for. I mean, if Abercrombie and Fitch got married, this is what their kids would grow up to do. They are all rocking various models of the white privilege starter pack. It's an interesting choice. It didn't really register until I read Canadian author Kim Fu's article in Hazlitt called The Year in Hyphenates. I'll have a link to it below. You should totally check the article out. This thing blew my socks off. Kim talks about how she, like myself and the Wang children, bought into the idea that to be Asian American is to be white adjacent or white light. It wasn't until her 20s that she realized she'd failed at whiteness, but because she had spent so much of her adolescence working at it, that she had failed at Asianness too. All throughout public school, I'd internalized the need to distance myself from other Asians, especially fobs or fresh off the boat, Asians whose only crime was their inability to shake their accents. I needed to believe that I was the exception, not like those first-gen Asians, and yet it was still clear that I was other. And even in Korea, it was clear that I was other. I was a good foot taller than everyone in the coastal village where I stayed, and after a long Canadian summer, was deeply tanned and did not speak the language. The Koreans there thought I was Mexican. Kim Fu argues that being Asian American or Asian Canadian, in my case, is its own unique and coherent identity. And therein lies the heart of the Wangs versus the World. It goes right down to their name, and I know it reads Wang, and I've even heard Jade Chang refer to it as Wang, but it is in fact Wang, subverted by a happy-flappy, guitar-toting Christian missionary who first taught Charles Wang how to write his name, and from that very moment, he took a proud family name that meant king, Wang, and turned it into cock, Wang. The fact that Jade Chang refers to it either way means it's both and neither at the same time. It reminds me a lot of my old friend and roommate. He's a Korean Canadian that we all knew as Joe Cho. Sort of rolls off the tongue, and that's what we called him throughout high school and beyond. But it wasn't until I saw his name written in Korean that I realized that we'd been pronouncing it wrong all along, and that it was in fact Che. But it had been anglicized to Cho, and he'd never bothered to correct anyone. At work, we have a Khalid who suffers us mangling his name because it's still preferable to us mangling it as Khalid, which is still wrong. He's gotten used to code switching his own name, and that's something common for a lot of us hyphenates. Asian American is its own distinct identity, distinct from our ancestors' nation of origin, whether it's Korea, China, Japan, Vietnam, Laos.
So are you Chinese or Japanese?
And distinct from those who believe that they are white, as Ta-Nehisi Coates would say. It is its own particular brand of marginalization. Charles Wang essentially immigrates to both America as well as to China and ends up being discarded by both. The Wangs aren't caught between two worlds, but instead live in their own world together. The Wangs versus the World is basically the story of what it means to be Asian American. And once again, a book has me down the rabbit hole and adding to my TBR pile. I need to read Kim Fu's debut novel, For Today I'm a Boy, as well as Peter Ho Davies' The Fortunes. If you want extra credit, check out In's Choi's play, Kim's Convenience. I know it's a play. It's not quite the same thing as seeing it live. My wife and I had the good fortune of checking it out at the Soul Pepper Theatre 5 years ago, and we were both completely blown away. If you're here in Canada, also check out the first season of the TV show Kim's Convenience based on that play. It's shot in Toronto, and I know I'm biased. It is beautiful to look at, and I love that show. Anyway, that's it for me as we near the Christmas season. I hope you all have a great week of reading, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.